The day everything fell apart started like any other day. The sun rose quietly, birds sang outside the window, and the world looked normal. But inside Daniel's life, nothing was normal anymore. He sat on the edge of his bed, holding his phone, staring at a message that had changed everything. His company had shut down overnight. Years of hard work were gone with a single sentence. No warning. No goodbye. Just an empty future staring back at him. Daniel felt his chest tighten. His job was not just work. It was his identity. It paid the rent, supported his family, and gave him purpose. As he stood up, his legs felt weak, as if they no longer trusted the ground beneath them. He walked to the kitchen, but even the smell of coffee, once comforting, now felt meaningless. His mind was loud with fear. How would he pay the bills? What would he tell his wife? What if this was the beginning of the end? As the day passed, more problems appeared, one after another, like waves that refused to stop. The landlord called, reminding him of the upcoming rent. His wife looked worried, trying to be strong, but her eyes showed fear. In the evening, Daniel's old car refused to start. He sat behind the steering wheel, staring at the cracked dashboard, and for the first time in his life, he felt completely powerless. That night, Daniel lay awake, staring at the ceiling. His thoughts moved in circles. He blamed himself for not saving more money, for trusting the wrong people, for dreaming too big. Tears quietly rolled down his face, and he did not bother to wipe them away. He felt broken, useless, and alone. Life had pushed him to the ground, and he did not know how to stand up again. The next morning, Daniel forced himself to go outside. He did not know where he was going, he just needed air. His feet carried him to a small park nearby. The grass was green, children were playing, and old men sat on benches talking about simple things. The world continued as if his pain did not exist. He sat on a bench, shoulders heavy, eyes empty. An old man sat beside him. He had kind eyes and a calm smile. After a few moments of silence, the man spoke softly, asking if Daniel was all right. Daniel wanted to say yes, but the truth came out instead. Words poured from him like a broken dam. He talked about losing his job, his fear, his shame, and the feeling that his life had lost all meaning. The old man listened carefully, without interrupting. When Daniel finished, the man nodded slowly. He picked up a small stone from the ground and held it in his hand. He told Daniel that life was like this stone. When things are easy, we carry it without noticing its weight. But when life becomes hard, the same stone feels heavy because we focus only on the pain. The man said something Daniel would never forget. He said that strength is not about never falling. It is about choosing to stand again when everything hurts. Life does not break us to destroy us. Sometimes, it breaks us to show us what truly matters. Daniel did not suddenly feel happy, but something inside him shifted. For the first time in days, he felt a small sense of calm. He thanked the old man, who smiled and walked away, leaving Daniel alone with his thoughts and the quiet sound of the wind. That afternoon, Daniel returned home with a different mindset. His problems were still there, but he decided to face them one step at a time. He updated his resume, even though his hands trembled. He searched for jobs, even when rejection emails arrived quickly. He sold a few things he did not truly need. None of it was easy, but he reminded himself that survival was not about speed, it was about direction. Days turned into weeks. Some mornings, Daniel felt hopeful. Other mornings, he felt crushed again. There were moments when he wanted to give up, to stay in bed and hide from the world. But every time he felt like quitting, he remembered the old man's words. Standing up did not mean feeling strong. It meant acting strong even when fear was louder than courage. Slowly, small changes appeared. A temporary job came through. Not perfect, but enough to keep going. His relationship with his wife grew deeper as they supported each other through the storm. Daniel learned to appreciate simple things again, like shared meals, honest conversations, and quiet evenings. One evening, as Daniel walked past the same park, he sat on the bench where he had once felt completely lost. He realized that life had not magically become perfect. Problems still existed. The difference was him. He had changed. He was stronger, not because life was kinder, but because he had learned how to endure. Daniel understood that when life falls apart, it is easy to believe that the pain will last forever. But pain is a teacher. It shows us our limits and then quietly pushes them further. Staying strong does not mean smiling through suffering. It means accepting the pain, learning from it, and refusing to let it define who we are. As the sun set, Daniel stood up, feeling tired but steady. Life had tested him in ways he never expected, but he was still standing. And in that moment, he realized something powerful. Even when everything breaks, the human spirit can remain unbroken. Life had never been gentle with Aaron, but the year everything collapsed tested him in ways he had never imagined. One morning, he stood in front of the mirror, barely recognizing the man staring back at him. His eyes looked tired, his face older than his age. The dreams he once carried proudly now felt heavy, like stones tied to his heart. Still, he washed his face, took a deep breath, and stepped into another difficult day. It began with the loss of his business. What he had built with patience and sacrifice disappeared slowly and painfully. Customers stopped coming, debts grew, and promises turned into silence. Every closed door felt like a personal failure. Aaron told himself to stay calm, but at night, fear whispered cruel questions. What if this was the end? What if he had lost everything forever? Soon after, life delivered another blow. A close friend he trusted deeply turned away when Aaron needed support the most. Calls went unanswered. Messages stayed unread. The betrayal hurt more than the financial loss. It taught Aaron a harsh truth. When life becomes hard, many people disappear. He felt abandoned, standing alone in a storm with no shelter. Aaron tried to stay strong, but strength felt like an empty word. Some mornings, getting out of bed felt like climbing a mountain. He moved through his days like a shadow, doing what he had to do, but feeling nothing inside. He smiled in front of others, hiding his pain, because he believed showing weakness meant failure. Inside, however, he was slowly breaking. One evening, as rain fell heavily outside, Aaron sat in darkness, staring at the floor. His phone lay beside him, filled with unpaid bills and unanswered hopes. For the first time, he asked himself if continuing was worth it. Not because he wanted to give up on life, but because he was exhausted from fighting without rest. Tears fell freely, mixing with the sound of rain, and he allowed himself to feel everything he had been avoiding. That night changed something inside him. Aaron realized that running from pain only made it stronger. Facing it, however painful, was the first step toward healing. He spoke aloud, admitting his fears, his anger, and his disappointment. The room did not respond, but he felt lighter, as if releasing a burden he had carried for too long. The next morning, Aaron decided to change one small thing. He stopped pretending to be okay. He reached out to an old mentor, someone he respected but had not spoken to in years. To his surprise, the mentor listened without judgment. He did not offer magical solutions, only honest advice. He reminded Aaron that failure is not a sign of weakness, but proof of effort. Those words stayed with Aaron. He began to see his struggles differently. Every mistake became a lesson. Every rejection became a redirection. He started waking up earlier, not because he felt motivated, but because discipline gave him structure when motivation failed. He walked every morning, letting the fresh air clear his heavy thoughts. Step by step, he rebuilt his routine before rebuilding his dreams. Progress was slow and often invisible. Some days felt worse than before. Doubt returned often, knocking loudly at his mind. But Aaron learned to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. He understood that growth does not always feel like success. Sometimes it feels like pain, confusion, and uncertainty. Over time, opportunities appeared quietly. A small project led to another. A conversation opened a new door. Nothing happened suddenly, but consistency created movement. Aaron learned patience, something life had never taught him when things were easy. He learned to trust the process, even when he could not see the destination. More importantly, Aaron discovered a deeper strength within himself. Strength was not about being fearless or confident. It was about continuing despite fear. It was about choosing hope on days when despair felt more logical. He stopped measuring his worth by money, approval, or success. Instead, he measured it by honesty, effort, and resilience. One evening, months later, Aaron sat alone watching the sunset. The sky was painted with colors that reminded him that endings can also be beautiful. His life was not perfect. Problems still existed, but he was no longer the man who stared at the floor in darkness. He had grown through the pain, not around it. Aaron understood that life tests everyone differently. Some battles are loud, others silent. What matters is not how many times we fall, but how we respond when we do. Staying strong does not mean never feeling weak. It means refusing to let weakness be the final chapter. As the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, Aaron closed his eyes and breathed deeply. He knew challenges would return, because life never stops testing us. But he also knew something else now. He had survived his worst days. And that knowledge gave him a quiet, unshakable strength that no failure could ever take away.